In this video, I'm going to show you the top productivity habits that made me rich. And this is what has allowed me to be in the top 1% of income earners since I was age 23. Because in today's day and age, it's never been easier to be successful. This is the best time to be an entrepreneur, but at the same time, it's also never been easier to be distracted. S tier is going to be the things that I use to stay the most productive and able to work 16-hour days, and D tier is the things that are the worst, that are not as useful. Number one is a blocker, and I use this blocker on my phone that actually removes apps. Now, it's really easy to put your phone in another room if you don't make money from your phone, but the difficulty with that is I actually make money from my phone. A lot of times I'm on the phone with people, or I'm on social media sometimes for posting, and so I try to find workarounds like not being able to have access to a feed. So I do that by having a physical device that forces me to walk around to a different location and be able to unlock my phone. I would consider this to be S tier because so many people these days are just focused on scrolling, and you can lose hours of your day and as well just start to become dopamine obsessed over scrolling your feed for hours. And so I try to reduce this as much as possible. So that, I say, is S tier. Number two is blue block glasses. I see people use these. I'm not the biggest fan of them. I think they can work, especially if you're looking at the screen for long hours a day like I am, but for me, they don't necessarily work a ton. I'm not going to say they don't work. They're just don't work super well for me. So for that point, they are C tier. Now I'm going to go into music. So specifically, I am a big fan of just listening to music all day, but there's also what's good for you and what's good for your soul. There's an app called Endel. I tried using it. It's, I guess, okay for studying, but it's not really for me in terms of, it doesn't have a good pace. And so synthwave is what I'm a big fan of. It's a genre of music that I listen to, and I try to listen to this as much as possible. I don't know what it is, but I will say music itself is either A or maybe it's B tier. I think it's B tier. Next part, time blocking. I've seen people use this where they actually block off their calendar. And for me, I've never also had a very big boost in blocking off my calendar. Now, what I will say is useful is actually going through and doing a time audit of seeing how did I spend my day. That has been really useful. And so I will do time audits pretty frequently in my calendar, but actually time blocking myself doesn't do a whole lot for me. And so for that reason, I'm going to probably put it in D tier. Not to say that it can't be used, just that it's not really used for me. Next thing is not doing corn is a very positive thing to do. And this isn't just straight up corn, but this is like anything involved with that, spending too much time on Instagram or being obsessed with dating apps, whatever it may be, because this will totally destroy your focus and motivation. This is one of those things that will take your eye off the ball. So I'm going to say this one definitely ranks super high, not only because it's healthy for you as an individual and as a human, but it just does take away so much of your effort and focus. Next thing is nicotine, but not just any nicotine specifically. I don't really like mentioning a ton of brands, but I will mention this one. Knickknacks are some of the things that I enjoy the most. Knickknacks are a brand that I like. I've tried nicotine gum. There's some good nicotine gums out there. The problem that I've had with nicotine gum is it makes my teeth feel weird over time and then kind of stains them. And they're not made out of the most healthy ingredients. So they have chemicals in them. They're just pretty much made of straight petroleum products. And so for that reason, I do prefer Knickknacks. Knickknacks are one of those things that I associated work with nicotine, and so that made it made a rewarding cycle for me. If I got something done or needed to get something done, then nicotine would be there, and so then I'll generally break them up. Knickknacks is a great brand. You can break them up into smaller pieces, and you don't have this weird thing with like Zins where you have this pouch. So I'm not a big fan of pouches. You have to like spit out this pouch at the end. And then on top of that, nicotine was a punch, whereas Knickknacks, they are a longer time per period. So you can put one in and it can last maybe 30 or 40 minutes, and those are great. And so I actually do prefer Knickknacks. I'm going to say this is S tier because this has been super helpful. This, right along with one other thing, will also be really important. Another brand is Gorilla Mind. Gorilla Mind is, I've tried a lot of different things. I've tried caffeine. I've tried Celsius, for example, Red Bull. None of those things really, they never really hit me. I will say Gorilla Mind, what really got me was the founder made an hour and a half long video explaining why every single chemical was in there, why he put every ingredient into Gorilla Mind. And it is a big night and day difference from being able to focus on something like Celsius, which is focused maybe just on being active and being healthy, to Gorilla Mind, which was geared towards focus. And I will say I noticed a huge focus boost when I used Gorilla Mind. But towards the end of the day, what I'll generally do is instead of caffeine, because it has 200 milligrams of caffeine, I will switch over to the Gorilla Mind Smooth, which is just like the pill version of this without any caffeine, so that I can sleep better at night. But I will say this is a staple of my life, S tier all the way. Totally recommend. That's one of the best things that I've used because I can remain focused. I know exactly, like I think so much better when I have Gorilla Mind. That daily, non-negotiable. Next thing is private chef. So I will say having someone cook your food for you is one of the best things that you can have happen, because instead of focusing and being worried about what am I going to eat, when am I going to eat it, and how much, you can just get raw ingredients and have them made for you. And I don't worry about it. So I don't, this will tie into the next one, but I love having all of my food prepared for me. I have specific menu items that I have already picked out, so I don't have to think about it. I hate thinking about food. For me, food is not one of the things I want to think about. It doesn't add any value to my day. I don't get any benefit from making that decision. I give my macros, and then everything else is taken care of from there from raw ingredients. So that's I'm a big fan of that. And it's not as expensive as you guys might think. It's just probably a couple $1,000s per month. I'm going to put that in A tier. It's not necessarily S tier, but A tier, because I don't have to worry about it. And I get fed really healthy food. The next thing is skipping breakfast. So I went back and forth on this. I've had breakfast. I've not had breakfast. I will say the most productive times in my life have been when I have not had breakfast, because when you consume a very heavy breakfast, I will tend to overeat in the afternoon. And then that also means that I'm going to gain more weight, which is not the goal, especially with macros, gain fat, not necessarily just weight. And so I do tend to skip breakfast. I do like skipping breakfast. I feel better and more focused when I skip breakfast. Plus, it allows me to have more incentives to go home at the end of the day, because I just do like working so much that I will sometimes forget to eat. And so it's good to be hungry at the end of the day, so that I'm reminded, okay, I got to go home and I got to wrap this up. So for that reason, I'm going to say it's B tier. Is it good? Yes. But is it the end all be all? No. Like, could I go back and forth? Yeah, it's definitely not like either nicotine or caffeine. Next one is going to be using a large display. I'm a big fan of using a large display. I've been just using a MacBook, a 16-inch MacBook for a while, and I liked it. It was good. I kind of learned to focus a bit, but the big difference that I noticed was when I had a display, I had better posture, which means I was breathing better, which means I could think clearer, and I had more screen real estate to be able to work on things at the same time. So if I had something on the left side of the screen and the right side of the screen, I was able to work on, I was able to have something up while I was working on something. So I could read some information, or I could do copy and pasting much easier. I will say a large display is one of the best things. And after using a large display, it is very, very difficult to go back to using a small display. So I will say S tier for displays, for using a large display for working. That's why you see a lot of those traders or people on Wall Street, they have these giant setups. Now, I'm not saying you need 5 monitors. I have one, and then sometimes I'll use my laptop on the right side, but that's about it. I totally suggest that. The next thing is, in the same vein, is a website blocker. I like using website blockers that will block things out. That I'm a big fan of. And this is just saying, all right, if I'm distracted on YouTube, or if I need to block X as a feed, I can use a blocker to be able to, and there's tons of them out there. You can just look them up. There's some extensions, but that you can have timing on those, so you can set a certain time of the day that you're not able to access certain apps. Very, very, very helpful to not remain distracted. I'm going to say this is definitely B tier. I use it not as often as I should, but I do like it, because then it allows me to focus on the few things. You want to go into a deep work session and just have ads manager, then boom, there you go. You just want to open up Slack for a few hours, then you can do that as well. And you can just block out everything else. So that's why I like them quite a bit. All right, the next one, for some reason, I've used a ton of different mice. I've actually probably bought a total of 20 different mice options, and I've tried so many different ones. I will say the best one that I found is the MX Master 3. Why? Because listening to clicks all day, I'm clicking on my computer all day, it will drive me neurotic. I cannot stand mouse clicks. And so I will say, I actually lost my mouse recently, and the next day I bought a new one right away. That's how much I missed it, because I was like, I really need to use a mouse that is quiet. And the MX Master 3S is a very, very quiet mouse. You can barely hear the clicks. And when you're sitting in a room kind of like quiet all day, like either I'll be listening to music, I'll not be listening to music, I will say the mouse helps out. Having a quiet mouse helps out. For that reason, I'm going to put it in A tier. All right, so next one, this one's kind of like it's coffee, but specifically coffee and not any other type of caffeine. I'm not a big fan of this. It doesn't really taste the best. I think it's cool. I'm going to put it in C tier because of two things. One, the dependency. If you don't have coffee, it can be really rough. Number two is the crash. I will say Grillamine, I notice much less of a crash and much less of a dependency than I have with straight up caffeine. I do like caffeine. I still have a cup of coffee every once in a while, but it's not the most productive thing. And so for that reason, it's not focused and geared towards productivity. I'm going to put it on C tier. I will still use it, but it's not my go-to or my favorite. All right. So next one is making sure that your sleep is dialed in. So many people don't really care a ton about their sleep, but I will say making sure that you go to bed and like actually go to bed on time is really important. And I still have like newborn children. And so even though my sleep is not perfect, I try to dial in my sleep as much as possible to make sure that I can squeeze everything out, because I notice when I go to bed late or I have a rough night, I am just not as productive the next day. And so I will say sleeping and making sure that you get a good night's sleep is absolutely essential. For that reason, it is completely an S tier. No way about it. If I were only to have one of these things on this entire list, it would actually just be sleep. So I'm going to move that up to the beginning here, because that's going to be like absolute S tier. All right, next one I'm a big fan of is actually I have a timer that lives on my desk, and I will use this timer. I will set it to usually somewhere around 25 minutes, and then I'll work for that amount of time. I don't know what it is. There's something about playing just games, like mental games with yourself and being able to focus. And that's one of the things that I enjoy the most. I will just hit that timer and then I'll go and work for the duration of that timer. It's not the most productive thing, but it is fun to like gamify work. And so for that reason, I'm going to say it's B tier. It's good. I would suggest it. I would suggest everyone try it, especially since a kitchen timer is like relatively inexpensive and it's worth a shot, but it's not one of those things that's like the end all be all. So next one is video games. I'm going to say just cutting out video games is one of the best things that you can do for yourself, because then you end up focusing and it turns you into a total degenerate. What I mean by that is when you play video games, especially if you're an obsessive type of person that is focused on like business and making a ton of money, video games make you focus on a different type of game. They give you this dopamine sensation around the game. And so then all of your thoughts end up being focused around a game. And the way that I was able to quit video games was, first off, I didn't have any consoles, so I got rid of all of them. The next part is I messaged someone that I absolutely hated, and I gave them my password to my my Steam account. And I said, hey, I don't want this password back. Here's the password. Change it over to your email. And that way I knew that I would have to go through the shame of asking that person for my Steam account password back if I ever wanted to get back to it. And so I haven't logged in years, and I haven't played video games for that exact reason. So I'm going to say A tier for not playing video games. Very much one of the best things, because it puts you on to focus on what is the important thing, which is work, which is making money. What is the most efficient way to be able to scale and build your company? All we do is scale. And so I need to figure out how to be as competitive as possible. So all of the materials that I read, everything that I go through is focused and obsessed around winning the game of business, not necessarily some digital screen that has no relevancy in the real world. So that's why I think playing video games, and the same thing is sports. I'm going to add sports in here. Obsessing over sports ball is akin to corn. It's so stupid. Like, you wear a jersey and obsess over a game where the person playing the game probably hates you and doesn't even know about you. You don't even know you exist, and you wear this person's last name on your back. Are you like, that is what married people do. So are you this person's wife? Why are you wearing his jersey? It doesn't make any sense. So take off the jersey, stop gooning over sports ball. It doesn't even matter. Stop obsessing about it. Now, I want to be clear. This is like, you want to enjoy something, fine, so be it. But people obsess way too much and they get so into a game that is not matter. So I'm going to say it's a personal pet peeve of mine. I'm going to say it's never really been interested. It's probably B tier, but I'm going to say people have got to stop obsessing over sports, because it is like, you should play sports, absolutely, physical activity, but you should not be obsessing over sports. All right, next one's going to be working out. I think working out is absolutely a no-brainer. Every single person should be working out to some extent, something. And I will say, every time I'm having an off day, if I go to the gym, some of the best days that I've ever had in my life, just like how do I feel better in general, most of those days I go to the gym. And so I notice I have a huge correlation between going to the gym and actually pushing yourself. And I'm going to say there's a difference between going to the gym and throwing some weight around versus actually pushing yourself. This was when I was in the military. I found out the difference between actually going to muscular failure versus just, quote, working out are two completely different things. And there have been many times when I've been in the military where we would go to absolute muscular failure. You physically cannot do one more rep. And that unlocks a huge thing in your own mind of, yes, I absolutely can do it. you unlock this new level of pushing yourself and being able to go farther. And so I will say working out, absolute S tier. Everyone needs to be working out, and it is one of the best things that I do. I can focus, and I totally suggest that everyone goes to there. All right. Next one is, this one's another app. This one's specifically called FocusMate. I like this. This is good. Every once in a while, if I'm procrastinating something, it's super helpful because there's something called the Hawthorne effect. And the Hawthorne effect just means that people act different when someone else is watching them. And so the thing about FocusMate is you just book a time within that, and you can meet with someone else on Zoom. You don't even have to talk to them. You can just hop in and just say, hey, this is the one thing that I'm going to get done in the next hour, the next 30 minutes, blocks, whatever it is. And then by the end of that time, you have to talk to that other person, and you both need to have gotten your tasks done. And so for that reason, I like it. It's cool. Would I suggest everyone use it? Give it a shot. It's good. I would say that when I actually do this, I end up getting things done. I'm going to say this is definitely A tier in terms of like, it's good for me. I don't do it super frequently, but A tier is definitely FocusMate and being able to work alongside someone else, because I work alone in an office most of the time. So it's good to break up the monotony. Next thing is, there's something up with these. These lights drive me neurotic. I really cannot stand the office lights that you have. For some reason, the LED lights, they don't sit well with me. And I'm not going to say that it's like I've not done no scientific research in this. I know that there's something about flickering lights, but for me, I do feel marginally better when I don't have lights on and I just have like either the computer light on or I have like a specific incandescent bulb. So I'm a big fan of this. I would say, like, could I choose, would it help out a ton? I don't know if it helps out like a ton with, it's either A, a placebo effect, or B, perceived value, which is still value. And so both of those things, for that reason, it's in C tier. Do I like it? Yes. But is it a big change? I don't know. Who's to say? It helps me out, and that's why I work on it. Now, I will say the next one is having your laundry done for you. I hate like menial chores, menial tasks. I don't like making decisions that are non-work oriented. And so I despise doing laundry. And so I can highly suggest everyone should be able to have apps for this where you can just say, hey, I want someone to do my laundry, and you can have it done for you. So I will say outsourcing your laundry is one of the best things that you can do. And just general menial tasks around, I think it's something that every single person should do, is just outsourcing those tasks. So for that reason, outsourcing tasks, specific laundry, A tier, love it all the way. Next one is tracking your health. So in this example, I just have Oura Ring. You can use like WAP or Whoop. Is this actually what it's called? The little bracelet, or an Oura Ring, which is what some people like. To each their own. I think tracking your health has had a really good effect on me, especially tracking my sleep, but it can be a little bit of an unhealthy obsession where you're just constantly checking it and checking like, oh man, I didn't sleep well last night. That means I'm not going to be productive today. But you shouldn't let this app dictate how well you perform. But there are things that you can notice about your readiness score. So for example, I don't drink, but people who do drink, you could see your readiness score go down because you decided to consume alcohol. And so for that reason, I think tracking and showing your metrics is important. Is it going to make you the most productive person? No, but does it help? Yeah. Should I be a staple? Also, yes. I'm going to say it's B tier, but super helpful. This is something that someone suggested to me. And would I say that it's like an absolute and all be all? Having a waterbed, specifically one that's heated or cooled, I tend to be a very hot sleeper. Do I suggest them? Yes. I also dislike the way that 8 Sleep, like there was an AWS outage and then your bed stops working. At no point should my bed be connected to AWS and stop working if AWS goes down. So for that reason, I dislike 8 Sleep, but 8 Sleep has a water-cooled bed and it does make you sleep in deeper sleep. I will say it's good. Should you do it? Yes, absolutely. But it's one of those things that's like, you got to find a good brand. I hope that someone makes a good brand. So for that reason, getting an actual like mattress, cooled mattress, I think is A tier for me. The next one is going to be Adderall, or just any of these types of supplements. I don't actually consume Adderall anymore. I had a prescription when I was younger and it really just didn't sit well with me. I was not a big fan of it. And I will say that there is a noticeable like downside. I don't think Adderall really helps people as much as they think it does. There's either like dependencies on it or it's just too powerful, I think, in my opinion, it's too much of a drug for someone to be able to use it effectively. I think that it just becomes too much of a focus of like, oh, I didn't have Adderall, therefore I'm not gonna be able to focus. Or they let things like telling themselves, oh man, I have ADD and therefore I can't focus, or I have ADHD and therefore I need a pill to be able to solve my problems. I don't think a pill is going to solve your problem. Not every single solution comes in a pill. I think Adderall is definitely one of those things. I just don't think a lot of good comes out of it. For that reason, Adderall is going to go in absolute D tier for me. Or let me know where I was wrong. And if you like this video on how to become richer, you're also going to like these